is going to affect it. Are we still going to finish news? There's a lot going on. We have Policy Director Carlo Branch out of Adelup on the phone. We got Father Paul standing by. I know there was a national story, but
Yeah, but we can go ahead and go to Carlo Branch.
okay, let's go ahead and go to Carlo Branch on the phones here. Carlo, of course, the Policy Director for Adelup. And can you kind of go over the statement we got last night, Bree?
Sure. I was asked by other media, and I believe Crystal was asked by KOAM regarding the circumstances relative to the entry of delegates Nicholas to the secure isolation facility, as he declared on his Facebook page. So based on that disclosure, I guess media had certain questions about how a non-known positive entered a secure COVID positive isolation facility. And based on the information we were able to gather at the time, it appeared that the congressman verbalized to a nurse at the isolation facility, who also happens to be his sister-in-law, that his doctor believed him to be a COVID clinical positive, which means you do not have enough viral load to trip a test, but you allegedly meet the criteria for clinical diagnosis of COVID. So based on that, the nurse or sister-in-law apparently said, yes, you can enter, and the endorsement was signed by her, apparently, or at least permitted by her, and he was allowed to enter, which became known to the public as a result of his Facebook post.
Yeah, I don't know if you got to see the brief interview of the congressman that we just had, but he basically called you out and said, oh, this is politics, Carlo Branch, Robert Underwood. They just don't know when to stop. When is it going to be enough with
When
these
is
people?
enough? And he also called for your resignation.
It wouldn't be the first time Congressman Nicholas has called for somebody's resignation, so I'm probably in decent company. The one thing I would say is we were asked a factual question, and we gave a factual answer. There was no politics involved in it, though I can understand that a few days before the election, everything is colored with politics. But I think you and I can both recall prior circumstances in which other individuals garnered entry into a government facility, allegedly for quarantine or isolation, and they were called to bear before the public as to why that happened, and we were called to bear before the public as to how we permitted that to happen. So I don't think that this is anything different or political. And with all due respect to my friend Congressman Nicholas, I hope he gets better, but this has nothing to do with politics.
Yeah.
The only reason we're even aware of the situation was because he decided to put it on Facebook.
Okay, Carlo, we did ask the congressman. Well, I did ask him anyway. So, did you call your sister-in-law? And he said no. He called a healthcare professional who was his sister-in-law.
Sounds like lipstick with a pig on it. Still happens to be a pig. And just in case for those people who want to take that metaphor out of context, what I mean is simply, obviously, it just happens to be a fact, and I don't know why he would be defensive about it, except that he acknowledges that may present a conflict. And, that is my personal speculation. Obviously, anytime an isolation unit or the protocols by which you enter are violated or placed in a gray area, there's a review that occurs, and I'm sure that review is occurring now. But the reality of the situation is, whether for personal disclosure, fun, entertainment, or political reasons, the congressman volunteered this information to Facebook. Media asked questions, as did the public. We answered them to the best of our ability. I'm sorry that the facts paint him in an unfortunate light.
What do you make, though, of the argument that, oh, well, now he's sitting in the hospital, so all of this is kind of moot because obviously he is ill, whether it's with COVID or not?
I appreciate that he's ill, and the one thing, and people can view this as glib or not, but I've known Mike since I was a freshman in high school. We were at one time very, very close friends all the way through college. And the reality is, if he has pneumonia, viral or not, he's a vulnerable person. And so if he was illegitimately exposed to a COVID facility and got COVID as a result of that, the reality is that he placed himself in danger by being a vulnerable person and exposing him to COVID, and that should not have occurred. So regardless of my political differences with Congressman Nicholas and whatever he might think of my personal opinion of him, I want him to be healthy and safe.
Sure.
And that is not the case if you have pneumonia and find yourself in a facility filled with a virus that preys on sick people.
Right, but Carlo, what is your response though that he didn't bypass or any of the protocols, that he was in fact sick, that his doctor said he had viral pneumonia, his doctor being the governor's chairperson of the physicians advisory group? When he got there, he did fill out all the paperwork.
So what I know to be true at this moment is that when the congressman presented, he did so verbally to his sister-in-law with the argument that his doctor believed him to be a clinical positive, but that he came to the facility with no documents indicating a positive test or no documents indicating from a physician, whoever it might be, that he was a clinical positive. And even in the case where a physician might believe you to be a clinical positive, that is not the sole discretion of the physician, whomever that might be. That is a public health determination because that is a public health facility. And so that determination should have been made by those in the public health regime so that A, the sanctity of the isolation unit could have been protected. And so that B, Congressman Nicholas does not place himself in any undue harm. And so that C, his sister-in-law would not have been subject to questions later about the legitimacy of her action.
Yeah. Well, Carlo, anything in closing? Because, I mean, the congressman levied some, well, kind of par for the course, but levied some serious accusations. How would you respond to his saying that when is enough with these people, I believe is what he said?
Congressman Nicholas has always had a talent for the theatrical. And so I'll give him a break because obviously he's down with something, and regardless of our political differences, I want him to be safe and healthy. That said, if he hadn't volunteered, if he had not made a show of it on Facebook, people like you wouldn't have asked the questions, and I wouldn't be here today. So it's kind of like digging the ditch and then wondering why you're stuck in it.
Okay, Carlo.
Thanks, Carlo.
All right, thank you.
Okay, stay safe.
Appreciate it. Right on. We're going to take a little break here, and that was the Outer Policy Director, Carlo Branch. Obviously, when the congressman's Facebook video dropped last night, we did ask questions. I mean, he posted that he wasn't diagnosed with the COVID, but he was in the ISOFAC, and we all know the protocols for gaining entry into the ISOFAC. So, of course, we're going to ask the questions, and that was the response we had got from Carlo. We had the congressman on briefly this morning. He's hospitalized at GMH. Yes, I mean, obviously he's ill enough to be hospitalized. So that being said, we're all praying for him to get better. But that doesn't mean we don't ask the questions. And so we brought Carlo on to respond to the response that the congressman gave, and we're going to get Congressman Underwood on, former Congressman Underwood on, to do the same thing. It's 7:12. We got to take a quick break, though.